Thank you for joining us tonight on Box and Barrel. Tonight we're going to do the pairing of this Cookie Monster cigar, which was the LCA cigar of the month last month, the Limited Cigar Association. This one is from a company called Caldwell's Lost and Found, which I believe their bread and butter is finding old stock cigars that have been well aged for whatever reason. Maybe it was they said the story with this one was that this particular Lancero, am I saying that correct?
That's correct.
This Lancero style, it wasn't selling when they made it 8 years ago, so it sat and it aged, and the Caldwell company found a stash of these that they thought reminded them of baking cookies whenever they smoked it, so they slapped this fancy little Cookie Monster band on that thing, and it's the hot stuff on the internet right now as far as cigars. We also chose to pair it today with what was an extremely hot topic a month or two ago, the Weller Full Proof. Now what's special about this particular bottle is this is a Mac Coldblazer store pick from Big Red, which is based out of Bloomington, Indiana. So while this is a single barrel, which you might not see on your standard shelf at the store, but if you're in the Indiana area or region, or also trading on one of the online groups, this bottle is able to be gotten. Cigars can be judged in thirds, and what I mean by that is that the flavor that you get on the first third of the cigar may very well change when you get into the second third as the oils and the moisture and the smoke compounds as you go. So if you get into a cigar and you're not overly crazy about it in the beginning, don't just put it out. Try to see it through. You may really enjoy the second third, or even more so the third third. For example, I like a darker cigar. I'm finding I'm completely new to the cigar game, but in my limited experience, I like them dark. So on a lighter cigar like this one, I'll probably enjoy the last third of it the most as the flavors become bolder as the cigar gets smoked.
I'm definitely a second, third person. For those out there that are second, third people, I'm not going to act like we haven't smoked this already. And my feedback would be in this area here, as Doug was saying, hang in there if it's not great at the beginning, because I wasn't having a great experience, but it got great. It got a lot better through this area of the cigar, and then for those of you who like the bolder flavors down here in the last third, that's where I'm backing off a little bit. All right, we're gonna get into cutting these.
Now there are a lot of different ways to cut a cigar. Some people like to take 1/8 of an inch off. I prefer to personally go all the way through the cap so that I get a nice, clean, large diameter. I like the end I'm smoking from to be about the same as the main end over there.
Let's do a dry hit.
Yeah, I do. I like to do a dry hit just so that I get the full experience of the cigar, what it was like initially as compared to what it was like.
So Doug went about twice as far as I did. I don't consume tobacco outside of cigars, so I'm not trying to get the full throat.
Or I like a nice full draw. If I had a cigar a few weeks ago that was what's considered to be a premium brand, and I just couldn't get a good draw on it. I tried the coring tool, everything. I just couldn't get a good draw on it. So I would take a lesser cigar with a better draw than I would, some fancy name brand $50 cigar that's just not hitting right for me.
The other thing with the dry hit is you can test kind of how it's pulling through. You can feel that pull and know if you want to cut more, less.
So something I noticed on the dry draw on this, I was getting, now mind you, this is called the Cookie Monster. They selected it, or I believe it's just called the Cookie to avoid any copyright infringement. We call it Cookie Monster because that's obviously, the vibe they were going after by putting the cookies and the eyes on there. But it is just a blue band. He doesn't have the fur. I think they may just be dodging copyright infringement.
Yeah.
But they selected this because they felt like it tasted like cookie. Now I have to say, on the dry draw, I was getting some tea leaf, some mild tobacco flavors, maybe a little bit of bookshelf dust, but nothing that personally reminded me of cookie as of yet.
Going with the bookshelf dust, I get a little bit of basement floor, not like gross basement floor, but those of you that are out there smoking cigars know what I'm talking about. I've heard musty, basement floor, bookshelves now. It's definitely in here.
you can tell that it's an aged cigar. It's my understanding these are 7 to 8 years.
They're 8 years.
Yeah, an 8-year cigar. And so, being new at cigars, that was one of the first things I was able to tell on my palate was when I was smoking a cigar where the tobacco was aged. It's the smoothness. It just comes through so much smoother, almost for me, where as a cigarette smoker, I feel like when I get a nice aged tobacco, I'll find myself inhaling a little more of it than I would on a younger, 2 or 3 year stick.
So for our tobacco smokers on the stage today, would you say you're consuming less cigarettes now that you're in the cigar world?
I would.
When I'm smoking a cigar, I don't actively smoke cigarettes. I'm not always smoking a cigar though, but yeah, like during my cigar time, I don't generally stop to smoke a cigarette.
To your point, Doug, if you could, in the comments below, tell us what you're drinking and what you're smoking alongside us. And if you want to give us some feedback about what you're seeing here today, that would be great as well, after you like and subscribe.
Yeah, we're very interested in what you think of the same products that we have on our shows here. So if you've tried this whiskey or you've tried this cigar and you liked it or you disliked it, or you have something that you think reminded you of it, please, in the comments, just put it in there. We'll respond to everybody that we can. But just know that if you comment, we will definitely read it. And if you have any recommendations on something you would like to see us enjoy, especially if you have a pairing in mind, we've got quite a selection. So if you see something on our shelf and you're like, oh well, I think that the new Yellowstone 2020 would go great with the Brickhouse Maduro, let us know, and we'll take that into heavy consideration for a future program.
I'm getting butterscotch, vanilla. What about you guys? Nick, what do you got down there?
But to me, the Weller products have always come off with more of a caramel note to them, a caramel vanilla note. I think that's in large part due to the wheat in the recipe instead of the rye recipe that a lot of bourbons use. For a full proof 114, does not have a heavy alcohol smell.
Yeah.
It's not over the top with the alcohol, even though it is at a higher proof, so that's very nice.
Do you have any initial feedback for us, Doug?
Well, so something that I had been noticing as an experienced whiskey drinker but a new cigar smoker is that when I'm having a cigar, especially paired up with a whiskey, that a lot of the char flavor from the whiskey barrel is masked by the smoke that I've got going on from the cigar. So for me, it brings out a whole lot more of the corn sugars, the caramel sweetness. So I'm expecting with a wheat whiskey, which is produced with wheat as opposed to rye, that naturally lets the corn sugars come through on its own. I'm expecting this to be about the sweetest one, the sweetest experience with this Weller Full Proof that I've had, because I have not had it paired up with a cigar yet.
Okay, you're in for a surprise. It's good. So while Doug was talking, I took my initial sip, and I think I did what they call it the Kentucky Chew, or we were sipping it, drawing in air. It was a little heavy. I prefer things that are 100 proof and below. This is obviously 114, and that being said, it was a little heavy on alcohol for me. But as soon as that disappeared, excellent. All the flavors, the profiles we just discussed came right through, and then an initial draw off the Cookie Monster, delicious.
Now, something I will say is that even if you're used to the Weller products or wheated whiskeys in general, this being at 114 proof, although I'm not getting the ethanol on the nose, when I got the first drink, I got the nice Kentucky hug from it. And as someone that likes 100 proof and above, I'm a bonded whiskey guy, I'm a barrel proof whiskey guy. For me, that is a big plus with this full proof product. Some people call it different things. And So when you feel it burn as it's going down, sometimes it's very light, and that's what they call a short finish. Sometimes it's a little hotter in there, that's a medium finish. And sometimes once you get into, like say the Booker line, or something, one of the big full proofs, the big barrel strengths, you'll get a long burn. This one I would describe as short to medium.
Yeah, even for me it was short.
I'm definitely a higher proof guy. I mean, so this one is with the Weller line. I enjoyed the 107 previously. That was always probably my favorite of the Weller line.
Since you do have so much 107 experience, I am very curious about what you think about this. It's only 7% higher, or 3.5% higher, but 7 proof. What are you getting out of the full proof that you weren't in the 107?
I mean, there's a slight bit hotter feel to it. I do believe the full proof is a slightly younger product than the 107. I believe this is a 5 to 6 year general. The 107's pretty much a 7-year. Used to be age-stated product. Now it's still recognized as pretty much a 7-year product, though.
For me, this whiskey, I love the Weller products just as much as anyone. I don't buy into the hype so much. I tried most of them that were available, and very, very fair retail price. Now, if you're paying up on the secondary and it's worth it to you, more power to you. Get it, enjoy it. Life is about the experiences. So if that bottle was worth the $400 or $500 secondary market, and you wanted it, and that was your only option, by all means, I am not judging. I'm guilty. Some things I've wanted bad enough to just go ahead and pull the ridiculous trigger. That being said, I personally am a rye whiskey man, and so I don't drink a lot of wheated whiskey. I like to try them as they come out, just being a Weller fanboy, just like everybody else. But typically on a given night, my go-to will be a strong rye whiskey. So this is a much sweeter than I'm used to, and I think it pairs quite well with this cigar. For me, the sweetness that I got in this pairing all came from the whiskey. To the contrary, the cigar was, tobacco-y, leathery, and pushed the char and smoke out of the whiskey, leaving the sweetness. So all of the sweetness I got from this cookie Weller full proof pairing came from the whiskey. I've read lots of online reviews where people were, it's chocolatey, I'm getting fresh baked, I'm getting cocoa, and I'm not saying that they didn't get that. They very well could have gotten that. It's all subjective. I'm just saying that I personally did not get that. I feel like my palate is pretty decent with whiskeys and with foods, but I'm just learning my way around cigars. So if those flavors were in here, they went over me. If I hadn't been told it was a Cookie Monster, I wouldn't have had any of those expectations out of it. I don't want to say I'm disappointed in the cigar, because if it would have tasted like fresh baked cookies, I probably would have assumed that it was an infused cigar, and probably wouldn't have believed it to be a naturally occurring thing anyway. Quality cigar, but for me, like I said, nothing reminiscent of cookie, except maybe a light graham crackery sweetness on the first third, which for me was gone by the second third.
And the sweetness is not like a sugary sweetness. What I mean by a sweetness in the cigar is I prefer a darker, spicier, bolder cigar, and this is a much more sweeter smoking cigar. Like the smoke just has a sweeter mouthfeel, a little more like a cream than that spice. That's what I mean by sweetness.
So,
not like a sugar cookie sweetness.
I'm curious, we're an hour 15 minutes into these. Where are you guys at on yours? Nice long burn. This is easily a 90-minute, maybe longer cigar.
especially if you're going to talk through it, which you should. You should be sitting with your friends. You should be enjoying these cigars. You should go sit at your local cigar lounge and listen to what these old timers have to say, because I'll tell you what, that has been about the most interesting conversation that I've been able to eavesdrop on over these past few months. It's just some of the amazing stories that these old guys have to tell in these cigar shops. And when they're sitting around with their same 3 or 4 friends that they've been doing this with for 20 years, they sometimes, as we all would, they've all heard those same stories. So they want this fresh new blood coming in there, new people to pass the stories on to. And I've met some really, really great guys and have had some amazing experiences. And mind you, you know, I don't have a whole lot in common socioeconomically with this crowd of people, but that being said, they have welcomed me in with open arms, and they know that I'm there to learn about cigars, to learn about them, and to just keep this great long American tradition going. And I'm happy to be a part of the new chapter. I will be the first to admit that the reason I jumped on the Cookie Monster bandwagon was strictly for the hype. And while like I said, I don't know that I would have enjoyed this quality cigar as much if I got into it and it tasted like chocolate and cookie. I wouldn't have believed that happened naturally. So while I did succumb to the hype, and while it didn't taste like a cookie, I'm extremely pleased to be smoking this 8-year-old cigar that it is incredibly smooth. It's burning absolutely fantastic. Wherever it sat and aged for the past 8 years, it was loved. It was well taken care of, because like Matt said, when we got them, they were a little dry, but a week in the humidor, this is burning like Matt's mentioned a few times that we like the Fuente line of cigars. They're a fantastic quality smoke. I would put the quality of this one, wherever it originally came from, whoever originally rolled this, filled it, bound it, and wrapped it, it's on par with that top line Fuente quality. Earlier today I had, a lot of you have probably heard of the Opus X, that they typically do those with a more mild wrapper. Well, we found the Fuente Añejo, which is the same filler but using a nice Maduro wrapper. And so, having had one of those today, and this following up that, I have no disappointment in this cigar. And just because something is hyped and may not live up to whatever kitsch label they threw on it, doesn't mean that it is not a mighty fine product. This is a great cigar. I've seen a lot of people online saying, oh, well, this is old junk. That's what Caldwell does. They find things that nobody wanted and they rebrand them. Well, this is my first experience with them, but it's been a very good experience as far as the quality of this smoke. I'm also a big fan of found products. Like, there are lots of whiskeys these days, like, for example, which we may get to it one day, this stolen whiskey, where the backstory is that they found this lot somewhere sitting aging, and took it, rebranded it. I like that. I like it when somebody finds something old and makes it new again. I feel like, had they not went out and found this cigar, I would not be enjoying this right now. So whatever it used to be, and whatever hype led it to be something, in my opinion, great find. I will be buying more Caldwell products. So if you guys had to say, was the pairing a success? Do you feel like the whiskey went well with the cigar?
Absolutely. I felt like the second third of my cigar and this whiskey, it was a great experience.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was a good experience too. I'm very pleased to have shared it with you guys.
Now, as I had finished my cigar earlier, my last few drinks of my whiskey was after the cigar was finished. It did allow some of that wood and char and oak to kind of come back to the whiskey. It was much more to the what I would expect from this bottle if you were drinking it as just the drink. the vanilla's still there, the sweetness was still there, but just that oak and char came through a lot better.
Delightful cigar, fantastic whiskey. I look forward to more Caldwell products, and I'll of course be eagerly awaiting the next Weller release. I'd say that's about it from us tonight on Box and Barrel. Anything anyone would like to add?
To that point, I've reached the end of my cigar rope. We're gonna let that go out.
Please, if you enjoyed the show, give us a like, subscribe. We'll be back. We'll let you know in advance what we're going to do next time. So if you wish to join us with our cigar or our whiskey or the combination of both, you can jump right in and like I said, if you have anything that you want to specifically see us review together, let us know. We've got quite a selection of whiskey on hand, and so we can accommodate most pairings that you'd want to see. Just let us know in the comments what you think. From Box and Barrel, have a great evening. I'm Doug.
Matt.
I'm Nick.
We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.